In the last video, we showed you how to set up a wireless bridge using the WDS mode. In this video, we're going to cover how to set up network attached storage across that wireless bridge so that your wireless clients can access files, folders, and media from either device. So the first thing that we need to do is log into both of our routers. Let's go to the primary router first. And let's also log in to the secondary router. And that has a different IP now. Okay, this is the primary router and this is the secondary router. The first thing that we're going to do is give the router an identification. So we need to go to basic identification. And we're going to give the router name, we'll call it router 1 and router 1. You can use whatever host name you like there to identify this device and click save. Okay, now let's do the same thing. We'll go to basic identification. We'll call this router 2. And scroll down and click save. So now we have just given an identification name or a router name and a host name to each individual router. So let's go back to the primary router, and what we want to do is click USB and NAS. Okay, and the first thing that we want to do is enable file sharing. Select yes, no authentication, or yes, authentication required, and that will require you to have a username and password. And the workgroup name, you just want to make sure that that's workgroup, and the way that you find that in Windows is go to Start, right-click on Computer, and choose Properties, and your workgroup name will be displayed right there. Okay? You just want to make sure that that matches whatever workgroup you're connected to. In the primary router, you want to make sure that Master Browser and Wins Server are selected. Now you only need one master browser for each subnet, okay? And the Wins Server, basically what that does is translates dynamic IPs into host names so that devices can talk to each other a little bit easier. Okay, now let's just scroll down and click Save. Okay, while that's saving, we'll do the same thing in the second router. We'll go to basic, no, excuse me. Let me see. Let's go to USB and NAS and use the file sharing menu. We'll select yes, no authentication. Again, we want to make sure our work group is selected. This time, we're going to disable Master Browser and we're going to disable Win Server. And the reason for that is because the primary router is going to handle all of this for us. Okay? Now, scroll down and click Save. Okay, now that that's saved, what we need to do now is enable USB support on both routers. So we'll click USB support, and you want to enable the core USB support and select whatever file extension you're using. ext2 and 3 are Linux file formats. NTFS, again, was designed by Windows and also works with Mac OS X and other systems. FAT's been around for a long time and is pretty universal. So the next thing that we want to do is just click Save now that we have USB enabled. And what will happen is the router will be ready to receive our drive. You'll notice here that it says multi-flash reader. That's because this particular router has an internal flash reader and it automatically mounted that. Okay, so let's do the same thing on this first router. We'll go to USB support. We'll enable the core USB support and scroll down and click Save. So now all we need to do is plug one USB or two, however many you have available on your router, but I'm going to plug one USB device into each router. So I'll pause the video and come back, and we'll browse our network locations and see if we can use these. Okay, I'm back, and at this point all I've done is plugged in a USB flash drive into our primary router, and I plugged in a USB external drive into our secondary router. On the primary router, the drive was already mounted when I clicked on the page, but generally you just click refresh, and when it's done refreshing, it will show you any drives that you have plugged in there. And when you're done, you click save. So let's do the same thing on our secondary router. Scroll down and click refresh. And there's our USB powered external drive. And we'll click save. And now that we have assigned host names to each router, we should be able to open our, as a matter of fact, I'm going to close this browser window, and we're going to open the Windows Explorer and browse network locations. And we'll click refresh to refresh our network. And we should see, with any luck, both USB powered devices. And there they are. So now, from any client within your network, you can get to the network attached storage devices plugged into either router. So on router 1, we have our share drive, which is our flash drive, which we can access our files, folders, and media. And the same thing applies to our second router. And there's our external drive. And that is how you set up a network attached storage over a wireless bridge using two routers using the WDS mode.